On October 7, 2023, the world watched in shock as Hamas, the Palestinian militant group controlling the Gaza Strip, launched a surprise attack against Israel. This unprecedented assault involved a barrage of rockets and ground incursions, catching the Israeli Defense Forces off guard and leading to immediate and widespread chaos. The suddenness and intensity of the attack left both nations and international observers reeling, as the fragile balance in the region was violently disrupted. This operation, dubbed Al Aqsa Flood, marked a significant escalation in the decades-long Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Named after the revered Al Aqsa Mosque, a site of immense religious significance, the operation was a stark reminder of the deep-seated historical and cultural tensions that fuel this ongoing struggle. The name itself evoked powerful imagery and emotions, resonating deeply with Palestinians and drawing global attention to their cause. It shattered any illusion of a peaceful resolution, exposing the raw wounds of occupation and resistance that continue to fester. The immediate aftermath saw widespread destruction, loss of life, and a humanitarian crisis that further complicated the already dire situation. Families on both sides were torn apart, and the cycle of violence seemed unbreakable, as retaliatory strikes and counterattacks ensued. The events of this day and the aftermath have profound implications for the region and the world, raising urgent questions about justice, accountability, and the pursuit of peace in a land marred by conflict. International bodies, including the United Nations, scrambled to respond, calling for immediate ceasefires and humanitarian aid. Analysts debated the long-term impacts, while activists and citizens around the globe rallied for peace and justice. The world watched closely, knowing that the reverberations of this conflict would be felt far beyond the borders of Israel and Palestine, influencing global politics and human rights discourses for years to come. The roots of the conflict can be traced back to 1948, and the events surrounding the creation of the State of Israel, an event Palestinians refer to as the Nakba, or catastrophe. This term encapsulates the profound sense of loss and displacement experienced by the Palestinian people. The displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from their homes during this period created a deep wound, a wound that has been passed down through generations. This wound continues to bleed to this day, as the descendants of those displaced still live in refugee camps, often in dire conditions. The subsequent occupation of the West Bank and Gaza Strip, territories that were supposed to be part of a future Palestinian state, along with the expansion of Israeli settlements, has only exacerbated the situation. These settlements are seen as illegal under international law, and their presence has further fueled resentment and resistance among Palestinians. For decades, Palestinians have lived under Israeli military rule, subject to checkpoints, movement restrictions, and the constant threat of violence. The confiscation of land and the demolition of homes have become a common occurrence, adding to the daily struggles faced by Palestinians. This system, which many have labeled as apartheid, has created a deeply unequal society. In this society, Palestinians are denied basic rights and freedoms, living in a state of perpetual insecurity and hardship. The international community has repeatedly condemned the settlements as illegal under international law, calling for their halt and reversal. Yet, despite these condemnations, the settlements continue to expand, encroaching further into Palestinian territories. This expansion further diminishes the possibility of a viable Palestinian state, making the dream of an independent Palestine seem increasingly unattainable. Numerous peace talks and negotiations have been held over the years, but they have often ended in failure, leaving both sides frustrated and disillusioned. Despite the ongoing struggle, there remains a glimmer of hope among Palestinians. Many still dream of a future where they can live in peace and dignity, free from occupation and oppression. Around the world, solidarity movements continue to support the Palestinian cause, advocating for justice and human rights. The resilience of the Palestinian people is also evident in their rich culture, art, and music, which continue to thrive despite the hardships they face. These symbols of resistance and resilience serve as a reminder that the struggle for justice and equality is far from over. As we look to the future, it is crucial to remember the past and to continue striving for a just and lasting peace for all. On the morning of October 7th, Hamas launched a multi-pronged assault against Israel, catching many off guard. The attack began in the early hours, with the sound of air raid sirens piercing the quiet morning, sending residents scrambling for cover. The operation involved firing thousands of rockets into Israeli territory, targeting civilian population centers. These rockets, launched in rapid succession, created a chaotic and terrifying atmosphere as people sought refuge in bomb shelters and safe rooms. Simultaneously, Hamas fighters infiltrated Israel through land, sea, and air, engaging in direct combat with Israeli forces. Using a network of tunnels, small boats, and even paragliders, they managed to breach Israeli defenses, leading to intense firefights in several locations. The scale and audacity of the attack shocked many, demonstrating a level of sophistication and coordination not seen in previous Hamas operations. The simultaneous assaults on multiple fronts showcased a well-planned and executed strategy, catching Israeli forces off balance. It exposed vulnerabilities in Israel's vaunted security apparatus and challenged the narrative of Israeli military superiority. The breach of the border and the subsequent infiltration highlighted gaps in intelligence and preparedness, prompting a swift and robust response from the Israeli military. While Hamas claimed the operation was a response to Israeli aggression and a desperate attempt to break the siege on Gaza, the targeting of civilians drew widespread condemnation. The international community reacted strongly, with many countries and organizations denouncing the attacks and calling for restraint. The use of human shields and indiscriminate rocket fire raised serious concerns about violations of international humanitarian law. The aftermath of the attack saw significant destruction in both Israel and Gaza, with civilian casualties mounting and humanitarian crises deepening. Aid organizations rushed to provide assistance, but the situation remained dire, with ongoing hostilities complicating relief efforts. The events of October 7th underscored the urgent need for a renewed focus on peace and diplomacy in the region. International leaders called for immediate ceasefires and renewed negotiations, emphasizing that a lasting solution could only be achieved through dialogue and mutual understanding. As the dust began to settle, both sides faced the daunting task of rebuilding and healing. The resilience of the affected communities shone through, as people came together to support one another and begin the long process of recovery. The hope for a peaceful future remained, even in the face of such profound challenges.